All right, gang, we got some breaking news here. The Georgia State Senate Judiciary Committee is officially recommending the decertification of the electors in Georgia. In this video, we are going to take a look at the report that the Judicial Committee produced, how two other state legislatures are on the verge of doing the same, and how all three states will in fact completely overturn this election in just a matter of days. You are not going to want to miss this. Welcome everyone, Dr. Steve here with you, ready to bring you our latest episode celebrating the inevitable collapse of left-wing globalism and the unstoppable rise of a new conservative age. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. We'd love to have you as a regular part of this channel, where each and every day we focus on optimism and encouragement in the midst of all the defeatist fake news nonsense spewed out by the mainstream media. Now, before we get into things here, let's give a huge shout out to the sponsor of this video, and that's the makers of this beautiful Fighter Flare flashlight. You're going to love this. One of the best things that you can invest in for your protection, for yourself, for your family when the lights go out is a 6-in-1 beauty, which comes with a 3000 mAh solar powered recharging battery. It's equipped with a high and low beam light that you can see from miles away. It has an emergency strobe light. It's got a compass. It's got a wire and rope cutter and emergency glass breaker hammer and a high powered military grade magnet. It's absolutely awesome. And best of all, you can get 20% off in celebration of Christmas, but supply is limited, so do not wait. Click on that link below and get your super awesome Fighter Flare flashlight today. All right, guys, let's dive right in here. The Georgia State Senate Judiciary Committee has just released a report that officially recommends decertifying the Georgia state electors slated to go to Washington, D.C. on January 6th. Gang, this is huge. This is the biggest move that we've seen yet to decertify this election. In a 15-page final report that you can read online, the committee reviewed the massive amount of evidence that was presented to them, that they reviewed and that they debated over, like the evidence of improprieties in this election. And they've concluded that the Georgia Assembly should come into special session to debate the evidence, and it is their recommendation that the Assembly ought to decertify the election results and the electors that were certified by the feckless Rhino Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger and their despicable Rhino Republican Governor Brian Kemp, who's imploding, by the way, in the polls. He had one of the most disastrous presidential elections imaginable, and rather than face the fire and be a true leader and take some ownership over this and fix it, he's hiding under his desk. All the while, his feckless Secretary of State is running the fawning cameras of the leftist activists disguised as journalists over at CNN to complain how mean and nasty those conspiracy kook deplorables are in Georgia. But now the pressure is really on, because we now have the first breakthrough here, the call to pass a resolution to decertify the results of the November 3rd election. Now, this would force the lower house to vote on the same resolution. The Republicans dominate the lower house. They would vote on the resolution recommended by the State Senate Judiciary Committee. They primarily focused in on, as far as evidence, on the mail-in ballots and the irregularities involved in that. And this Secretary of State Raffensperger, he actually made a secret deal with the Democrat Party of Georgia to basically remove the chain of custody precedent of the mail-in ballots. And that's why there was so little mail-in ballot rejection in November. So in 2016, 3 to 5% of mail-in ballots in Georgia were rejected. In 2020, it was a miracle. It was as low as 0.03% rejection, even though there were 6 times the amount of ballots. And this goes back to this utterly indefensible consent decree that this Rhino Secretary of State signed in an agreement with the radical leftist activist Stacey Abrams that removed the safeguards and the vetting protocols for mail-in ballots. And of course, you had that video that was played at the Georgia Senate Judiciary Subcommittee hearing. It's now become famous. It's gone viral, where you could see the counting room getting emptied, and then 2 workers sitting at their respective tables, you know, just kind of ho-humming, just looking like they're packing up or whatever. And then once everyone is gone from the room, from the biggest counting center in Atlanta, you can see these 2 people go to a long table that looked like it had a black linen cloth draped across it. And from underneath the table, they pulled out these several boxes or suitcases of ballots that they then began to feed repeatedly into the counting machines with no election supervisors present. They estimate, based on how many votes the machines can tabulate per hour, they estimate that approximately 40,000 votes were counted without election supervision, which is well above Biden's so-called lead in Georgia. It's just about 10,000 votes. All they have to do is wipe away those 40,000 votes, and Georgia goes to Trump. And so after rehearsing all the evidence that they reviewed, this Georgia State Senate Judiciary Committee concluded with the following recommendation, quote, "The legislature should carefully consider its obligations under the U.S. Constitution. If a majority of the General Assembly concurs with the findings of this report, the certification of the election should be rescinded, and the General Assembly should act to determine the proper electors to be certified to the Electoral College in the 2020 presidential race. Since time is of the essence, the chairman and senators who concur with this report recommend that the leadership of the General Assembly and the governor immediately convene to allow further consideration by the entire General Assembly." So there you have it, gang. We now have our first official document from an elected body that has considered the evidence and concluded that this election was, in effect, stolen. So the days of the mainstream media being able to run around going, "This is all unsubstantiated. Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence?" Those days are over. We now have an elected body, right? A state Senate Judiciary Committee that has officially declared that there is indeed enough compelling evidence of fraud to decertify this election. And Georgia's not alone. There are two other legislatures that are on the verge of doing the very same thing. But first, I want to personally invite you to our exclusive New Year's virtual conference on January 9th, 2021 to help you feel prepared for the year ahead. We're going to give you the information that you need to remain strong and confident, whatever may come, precisely because myself and our guests are going to give you a long-term perspective that will give you the assurance you need to head into the new year with confidence and resolve. Now, seating for the conference is limited. We've got amazing guests, and it gets even better if you've got time to take advantage of our special Christmas time discount for you, but it's just for this week, so don't wait. Make sure to click on that link below. Take advantage of our Christmas discount registration, which ends soon. And you'll be glad to know that a portion of the proceeds are going to go to Good Neighbors Home Repair. So not only are you going to get blessed from this, but you're going to be blessing others with your registration as well. So do not wait. Click on that link below and register for our New Year's virtual conference today. All right, gang. So in Arizona, the state Senate has issued subpoenas to inspect and audit Dominion voting machines in Maricopa County. Okay, Maricopa County is 4.5 million people. It includes Phoenix. So what happens in Maricopa County in terms of the audit happens to Arizona, right? It's 3/5, I believe, of the voting population of Arizona. So this is gigantic. Republican Senator Eddie Farnsworth, he's the chairman of their Judiciary Committee. He issued subpoenas going after the machines. It will be an immediate seizure, and that's going to result in a full forensic audit of what happened on November 3rd with these voting machines. Now, election officials in Arizona are doing everything they possibly can to not comply with these subpoenas. But at this point, they're just stonewalling. They're going to have to eventually give up on those machines. And that's because it's not just the legislature that's getting involved here issuing subpoenas. The judiciary is involved as well in Arizona. A couple weeks back, the Arizona GOP was granted access to 100 sample ballots. And what they found was rather shocking. Out of the 100 votes investigated, 2 were discovered to have been demonstrably altered and removed from President Trump's total. 1 ballot was actually changed from Trump to Biden, and another ballot was reportedly taken completely away from President Trump. Now, in election statistics, this constitutes a 3% margin of fraud because it involves 2 votes taken away from Trump and 1 vote artificially added to Biden. So this is a 3% margin of fraud in an election where the supposed winner leads by less than 1% of the vote. I believe Biden's lead is well under 10,000 at this point in Arizona. And so the awesome news is that the judge has ordered a larger audit to be conducted. The GOP finally has access. They're finally going to be able to scrutinize these ballots. And so the judiciary and the Arizona legislature look like they're coming together, form a perfect storm, as it were, to seize these voting machines and get to the bottom of what happened on November 3rd. And the Arizona legislature looks like they are ready to do precisely what Georgia's about to do. Rudy Giuliani, the president's lawyer, says In the case of Arizona, they're basically 2 votes away from decertifying this election. Okay, that's why you need to keep the pressure up here. That's what Representative Mark Finchem, the state representative from Arizona, that's what he's saying. He's saying actually decertification is the minimum, right? That he thinks at the very minimum they're going to be able to decertify this vote. Right? That's the minimum. More optimistically, he thinks Arizona is going to be able to actually flip to vote for Trump and seat officially pro-Trump electors. So that's Georgia, that's Arizona, and then you've got Wisconsin. The Wisconsin Supreme Court decided in favor of the Trump team in ruling against Wisconsin county clerks who declared voters indefinitely confined because of COVID. We've talked about this before. The key here is that if you have indefinite confinement status, you're actually allowed to bypass Wisconsin's very strict voter ID law if the voter is declared confined to their residence due to age or physical illness or some kind of disability. What happened is that you had a bunch of clerks telling voters that because of COVID, all voters automatically qualified for indefinite confinement status, which of course is absurd. And I believe the court was unanimous in ruling that the clerks were wrong in telling voters that they could be automatically counted as indefinitely confined simply because of COVID. Now, given that Biden is only ahead by 20,000 votes, I think it's 19,000 Wisconsin, we'll have to see what happens as a result of this decision. But apparently what's going on right now is the Trump team is getting the bottom and identifying every one of those votes in order to get them tossed out by the state legislature. And they even have 221,000 votes that have no written request for the mail-in ballot, which you have to have in Wisconsin law. That's why they took upwards of 10 days in that audit. And they found that over 220,000 ballots that they claimed had no record of any written requests. And so by definition, those votes need to be legally thrown out, right? And in the end, it's going to go back to the state legislatures. And that's where the Trump team wants it. So keep your eye on Wisconsin, particularly in terms of how the Republican legislature there seeks to remedy the illegality, the declared illegality of the indefinite confinement conferral on so many thousands of voters. And so there you've got it now. You've got Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona. These are the lowest hanging fruit. And we get these state legislatures to decertify their votes in the next couple of weeks. Gang, no one gets 270 electoral votes. That means this election gets kicked into the House of Representatives, where every state gets 1 vote. There are 30 Republican states, 20 Democrat states, and Trump wins re-election easily. We're almost there. So keep the pressure on your state legislatures going, and let's do this. Now, before you go, make sure to like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to my channel. And you'll definitely want to check out my latest video. I just uploaded it on how a petition to recall California Governor Gavin Newsom is hitting nearly 1 million signatures as California is poised to turn red. You are not going to want to miss this. So make sure to click on the link, and I will see you over there. God bless.